Ha ha! Clickbaited. I don't give a fuck about Shannon. She's an insufferable cunt and she can fuck off. And if that's the only reason you're here, you can fuck off too. Go ahead, click dislike, leave your nasty comment. Thanks for the view. Get the fuck out. But if you care about art YouTube drama, one might suppose that maybe, just maybe, you might be interested in art YouTube. And if you're interested in art YouTube, then one could also surmise perhaps you are interested in art. And if you are interested in art, let's talk art, motherfucker. You know, and one might, of course, expect that you missed last week's episode of Old Weeb Learns to Draw Anime Titties. So I'll just kind of quickly summarize that I have drawn this thing on a piece of paper like 2 years ago. It's the one thing I've ever done that I could be even remotely proud of. And it's shit. It's honestly pretty fucking sad because it's got all of this crap wrong with it. And the reason it's got all of this crap wrong with it is because I fucked up the proportions. Now, you can jump back to the old video to see why all this stuff is fucked up and see me like explain in more detail. But because all of this can be summed up as proportions, I'm going to talk about proportions. Specifically, I'm going to talk about Vitruvius. You may recognize the name Vitruvius, or at least be able to extrapolate that it has something to do with Leonardo da Vinci's Vitruvian Man, which has the naughty bits blocked by a little picture of George Takei here, so YouTube doesn't get angry. You might also recognize that from Vitruvian Physique, which is an exercise and workout channel here on YouTube. It's pretty good. The guy is actually... It's worth watching workout channels because you get to look at bodies in motion. It's really easy to grab reference off of these channels to draw. That's a pro tip there. Pro tip from a totally not pro. I recognize Vitruvius from the 10 books on architecture, specifically from this part in book 3, where he says that the human body is so designed that the face, from the chin to the top of the forehead and the lowest roots of the hair, is a 10th part of the whole height. The open hand is just the same. You can check this on your own face. You can stick your hand in front of your face. Remember that old joke when you were in grade school? There you go. Did you know that if your hand's bigger than your face, you got cancer? And then you put your hand up to your face. They hit your arm, so you smack yourself in the face, and they think that's funny. 'Cause it is. That's fucking hysterical. The head from the chin to the crown is an 1/8, so we're talking an 8-head figure. You're probably familiar with that concept. And with the neck and shoulder from the top of the breast to the lowest roots of the hair is a 1/6. A 1/6. If that's a 1/6, then that's a head plus what? It's a head plus a 1/3. From the middle of the breast to the summit of the crown is a 1/4. So, again, we're talking about an 8-head figure. If we take the height of the face itself, blah, 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 blah. That's all of the important stuff. And let's take a look at one of my favorite artists, Bern Hogarth. This is a reasonably famous image that he's drawn, okay? And this reasonably famous image here has pretty much exactly those divisions. You can kind of mark those off. Now, he's got it marked off a little bit differently, and the reason he's got it marked off differently is because he's got his own particular take on this, where he says it should represent 20th century man, not the Greek, Roman, or Renaissance man, but, you know, the modern man. So he creates a standard of 8 3/4 heads for the length of the figure, which by my reckoning is actually 8 2/3. I mean, I've looked this over and it looks like 8 2/3 to me, not 8 3/4. I don't know why he says 8 3/4. It seems a little bit off. And what I actually think it is the neck. I think he measures the neck from the pit of the neck to the chin as 1/2, which is accurate. But the pit of the neck to the line of the shoulders is only 1/3. And I think that's where things get kind of funky, okay? And it also depends whether you measure this right here. When you measure the foot, you can measure to the lower ankle on the outside or the upper ankle on the inside and alter it from a quarter to a third pretty easily. So I think that's kind of where that discrepancy pops up. And I prefer to look at it as 8 2/3, which, again, you know, where the fuck do I get off doing this kind of thing? I mean, this guy's an expert. He's a professional. I'm some dipshit weeb in my fucking basement, right? Who the fuck cares what I have to think? Well, you know, you're watching my channel, so I guess that's a thing. But there is kind of one important issue here, and that issue is if you're using heads to measure, you kind of run into the problem of heads change in size with foreshortening. Now, as the head turns in different angles, and these are, again, heads by Hogarth, and as the head is in different angles, the height of the head is not exactly clear. It's difficult to measure, and when you are measuring it, you know, you're measuring it at an angle, and it's not exactly clear at every particular position what that height is, okay? So what happened in a lot of, well, specifically in Russian art schools and also in Eastern European art schools, was instead of measuring by heads, they measured by what they called the cranial index. And the cranial index is just the ball of the skull. It entirely ignores the face, and it only considers that ball of the skull. And the ball of the skull, funnily enough, a sphere is the one type of shape that no matter how you twist and turn it in any direction at any distance, no matter what angle you look at it from, it's just round. And because it's just round and it doesn't have that additional issue of the face sticking off of the side, which gets foreshortened right here, because you've got this round shape, you can put it in all of the same places. It's 2/3 the size of the head, and you can just draw these out. Now, I'm doing this freehand, so it's not exactly precise, but I am kind of following the guidelines in Hogarth's work. So instead of an 8 2/3 head figure, what you end up with is a 13 cranial unit figure, and that is a dramatic improvement. There is, however, still a problem with it, and that problem is the torso is primary. You should not start drawing the figure with the head. You should be starting with the torso. It's the torso that you need to begin with, because the torso mass, as it says right here, the torso mass is the central double form to which all other forms attach. And any movement in the upper or lower torso, that throws everything else out of alignment and into a new relationship. In particular, it changes your balance. Because it changes your balance, your feet need to move. So all of that goes together, which is why kind of the direction that you want to go, you start off with the torso, with the rib cage, you move on to the pelvis, then to the legs, and from the legs, you then move to the arms, and thence to the head. All of this informs and instructs the next part of the process. Each and every one of these bits makes the next piece fall into place and align itself, okay? So the person that I've been looking at other than Hogarth right now is I've been looking at Gino Barksay, because I have had this book for fucking ever, like since the 70s. So, you know, it's like not quite 50 years I've had this book, but like 40 some. And yeah, I've had that book forever. And the thing about Barksay is Barksay has a slightly different take on things, all right? And he covers this well as far as doing the torso primary. You know, there is, I do want to cover one thing real quick. Stan Prokopenko also covers the torso being primary, how to draw structure in the body. He talks about the robo bean, the anato bean, and that kind of stuff. And he really does a great job. As you can see, I'm subscribed to him, and he's got like 2 million subscribers. The guy's great at teaching this stuff. So I wanted to throw that up there and just kind of give him a shout out because great channel. You should check it out. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to throw this torso up, and then I'm going to throw the bones underneath of it just so you can see that they line up. And then I'm going to pull the skin off. And these are pictures that I took out of Gino Barksey's book and just kind of stripped out of the photo and threw into here. And you can see here that we've got a front view of the bones and a side view of the bones, and we've lined this up with Hogarth's setup here. And you can see that everything still lines up, okay? But whereas Hogarth has drawn a 3/4 view that is kind of hard to get measurements off of, what we have here is a front view. And since we have a front view over here, we can turn off Hogarth, because what matters is what Barksey's got here. And what Barksey's got here is, if you look at those guides, you notice right here that and that. These areas, we've got this neat little square right here that divides into 4 sections, and that is double the width of the head. It's about a head long here. It's about 2/3 of a head long here. Because this is angled, okay, it seems shorter than it is. And this is the important shape. Then we've got a similar kind of important shape here, which is this shape in the spine. You can see we've got the spine that comes around here, and there's this box. There's this kind of tip of the box touching that bottom of the rib cage. It does not, strictly speaking, touch, because you can see here that everything is a little bit out to the side. So it doesn't actually like ram into the ribs. But this kind of shape, this sort of trapezoidal shape, that's the important thing to consider when you're putting this torso together. And that sort of bend right there, that's typical for a male form. As we mentioned previously, if you stick some boobs on this, you got to bend it back some more. But the most important thing to take out of this is that little kind of skewed hexagonal shape where you just kind of cut off the corners of this. And by the same token here, come across, you come down, this comes up about 1/3, this comes up about 2/3. Okay, so you've got 1/3 in the back, 2/3 in the front, and you have that sort of hexagon right there. This is where you should be starting from, and that chest block right there, when you draw that chest block, that dictates how everything else fits together. Okay, so from there, you've got underneath of this, you've got a pelvis, and that pelvis has the legs attached right there, and those come down like this, and they come up down about to there. And you got these, and then you got the feet down here. And if we turn Hogarth back on, you'll see that this stuff lines up pretty well. Actually, I have things down a little bit too far on this. But then up here sits your head. The important thing is understanding where your rib cage is. And understanding where that rib cage is makes a dramatic difference. And I'm running low on time, and I really got to finish this up. But that's the shape that you want to worry about. That's the shape you want to worry about. And this is where you want to start everything. Next week, we're going to talk about the pelvis. And just to kind of give you an idea what we're working with here, I know I'm not that great, okay? I'm just sketching, I'm just doing composition, and I'm putting this stuff up primarily, you know, I mean, I've done 3 videos this month, and, you know, that's pretty fucking good. So I don't feel like pushing on a channel especially hard until I have about 50 videos, and I don't really feel good about it until there are at least 100. So this is kind of what I'm doing here is I'm developing this critical mass of content, and I'm really kind of pushing toward a level similar to this. This is Morgan from Tears to Tiara. this is the level of rendering that I want to get to before I start really seriously pushing on this channel. That's why it's small. That's why I'm not advertising heavily. That's why I'm not pushing stuff. This is just where I want to get to, and then I'll feel like I can do the artwork that needs to go into the game that I'm developing. And working on these proportions and on these basic concepts, this is how I'm getting there. I don't expect people to be falling all over themselves about how great I am right now, but I do expect to kind of show the journey and to show this is what I'm working on, this is the direction that I'm going. You can see that I kind of fucking suck. You can see the direction that I'm headed. You can see the goal that I'm working toward. And as I get closer to that, I think that's going to serve as kind of the proof of concept. And that's going to show you that, yeah, I do know how to learn shit. I do know how to get places. It's tremendously difficult to learn from people that are already really good at what they're doing, because they may not know how they got there. So I'm trying to involve you guys in my journey all the way from the beginning so that you can see, yeah, I do know how to get from point A to point B, because point A kind of fucking sucked. So when I get to point B and you're like, oh, he knows how to get there because look at that garbage. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So, you know, if you want to talk to me more about this, then I pretty much hang out on Discord all the fucking time. I'm pretty well retired. So mostly I hang out on the internet all day long, except when I'm doing like fucking yard work and shit, because I got a lot of land and that land needs maintenance. But I do pretty much get stuff taken care of, and I spend a lot of time on the Discord, a lot of time playing games, and lately I've been spending a lot more time in Clip Studio Paint making art. Anyway, that's it. There's a link to my Discord in the description, and yeah, that's pretty much it. You know, so like I don't know. I have no idea how to end these things, so I'm going to take a page from Holly Brown and just go, okay, bye.